Good evening, Park Church. Thanks for tuning in to this week's Midweek Pastor's Moment. And hey, we started a series last week and we were talking about, in preparation for Jesus' birth, his genes, his genealogy. And we noted last week that not everything was perfect in those generations. And just a quick recap of that, there were 14 generations from Abraham until David, then 14 generations from King David until the exile, and then 14 generations from the exile until Christ. And so we're taking the genealogies as recorded in the Gospel of Matthew. And Matthew's very diligent. And so we come to Matthew 1, verse 5 says, Salmon was the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab. Boaz, the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth. Obed, the father of Jesse, and Jesse, the father of King David. So there's two special women mentioned in Jesus' genealogy. And stylistically, if you're reading the genealogy, they're always only just mentioning the men. They're mentioning the male heirs as they were preceded by these sons leading up to Christ. And so they break this pattern of just mentioning the men in their lineage. And contemporary readers of Matthew's gospel account of Jesus' birth would have been a Jewish audience, and they would have been very familiar with the Old Testament scriptures and the major events of Jewish history, the history of the Jewish nation. Specifically, that when Rahab's name was mentioned, they would have immediately remembered or recognized Rahab as the one who was instrumental in the victory that the Israelites had and that the Lord brought them over Jericho. And if you flash back to your Sunday school days, Jericho was the walled city that the Israelites were commanded to march around. They were commanded to march around it once every day for 6 days, and then on the seventh day they were commanded to march around 7 times. And on the seventh circumventing of the city, they were to shout and blow the ram's horns, and the walls were to fall down. So they would have remembered this, but Rahab wasn't part of the army of Israel. She wasn't one of the musicians blowing the horns or shouting. Rahab was a resident of Jericho, and we know that Rahab's profession was that she was a prostitute. This is what we're talking about, a prostitute in the genealogy, or Jesus' relative being a prostitute. So Rahab makes it into the Hall of Faith as well in Hebrews chapter 11 for her conviction and her trust in God as being the God of heaven and earth. And then Rahab is also again mentioned by Jesus' brother James in his book to illustrate that our faith has to be backed up with actions. And when it mattered most, Rahab acted. So it's very, very famous to note Rahab in Jesus' genealogy. And we can read about her account in Joshua chapter 2. It says, Joshua the son of Nun secretly sent spies to Shittim. Go and look over the land, especially Jericho. So they went and entered the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. So she took them, she hid them when men came to inquire where they were. She put them on the roof. And verse 8 says, before the spies lay down for the night, she went up on the roof and said to them, I know that the Lord has given you this land, and that great fear of you has fallen on us, the residents of Jericho, so that all who live in the country are melting with fear because of you. We heard how the Lord dried up the land of the water at the Red Sea, and when you came out of Egypt, what you did to Sihon and Og, the 2 kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. And when we heard of it, our hearts melted with fear, and everyone's courage failed because of you. Because your God is a God of heaven above and earth below. Now, she says, swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family, because I have shown kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you'll spare the lives of my father, my mother, my brothers, my sisters, and all who belong to them, that you will save them from death. And so Rahab was, in fact, different from all the other people in Jericho who had the same feeling. They were afraid of the Israelite army, afraid of God who was acting and working on their behalf. And Rahab did something about it. By her confession, she brings the spies in and says, swear to me that we will be saved. She puts her life and the life of her whole family into the hands of the spies, and they honored her actions. Everyone in her household was saved. When the Israelites came and the walls came down, they found Rahab and escorted her and her entire family out. They were preserved from the destruction. And so what became of Rahab? Well, otherwise we wouldn't have known, except that she married Salmon, who became the mother of Boaz, which we'll cover next week, so stay tuned for that. And she made it into Jesus' family tree. And she, in addition to her name, she was grafted in. You follow the genealogy and you see all these men, and then you see this extra line, including Rahab. She was grafted into the family tree of Christ. And this is the language that Paul uses to the Romans in his letter. And this is a picture of what Christ's birth would do for us, that through faith in Christ, we are part of Abraham's lineage. We're grafted in. We become heirs of the promise to Abraham. We're part of Abraham's seed and descendants of this blessing, that through Abraham, the nations of the world will be blessed. We're co-heirs with Christ, and we're saved from the coming judgment because we're in Christ. And this is the picture that we get when we see Rahab here. See, it was in Jesus' genes. It was in his genes, his incredible genes, his extraordinary genes, to bring others in, to preserve them, and to save them. Those that were not of the regular lineage, but to bring others in. And it's very important that we note that. When we're talking about Jesus' lineage, he shows us how welcoming, how accommodating, how forgiving he is. We've been grafted in. It was in his genes. So I'm excited for next week as we continue this Midweek Moment series about Jesus' genes. Park Church, this coming Sunday is a big deal. It's our kids' Christmas production, and it's going to be an amazing Sunday, so we don't want you to miss it. Make sure you come early. You'll note that there's extra chairs there for guests that you're inviting, family and friends. And also, we have our Christmas family gathering following the service. We want everybody to attend, and so we will also be opening the gym for extra seating. And all we ask is that you bring a hot side to go with the turkey, gravy, and mashed potatoes, which we will be providing. December 24th at 3 p.m. is our Christmas Eve candlelight service. It's a 1-hour special service that we want to invite you to. There's a special gift for all the kids that are attending, and we'll be serving hot chocolate and cookies before the service, just getting you in the Christmas mood that day. You should also note that our Christmas Day service will be online, and we'll send you links so that you can watch that special with your family, to take time to gather together on Christmas Day and to remember Christ's birth. And then our office is closed following Christmas Day, open on December the 29th to receive your year-end giving. And thank you to all for your continued faithfulness throughout the giving season, and for all of you who are getting involved in our Christmas giving campaigns, both with our Giving Tree benevolent hampers as well as with our We Care bags. Just that God is going to continue to bless you. And you can have those back to us next week. That would be great. January 1st, New Year's Day, another Sunday. We have a great family event planned for you. There'll be no in-person service that day, but we're planning a gathering for our people to just ring in the new year together as family. And we'll have more details about that coming in the next week. And I'm really excited that beginning January the 2nd, so Monday, January the 2nd, it's going to begin a week of special services. We want to begin 2023 just focusing on Christ and just seeking him in prayer and in worship. And so for each night of the week, Monday through Friday, we're going to have a 1-hour special service from 6:30 to 7:30. Childcare will be provided, so we want you to mark off that time now and plan to be there as we start the new year off, just seeking God's face for all that he wants to bring and achieve through our community. We love you, Park Church. Thanks for joining me tonight. We'll see you soon.